For more on President Xi's trip to Serbia, I spoke earlier with McClory. He's the managing director and head of China for Bonwick Capital Partner, an investment company. I asked him if the trip is living up to its billing as historic.
I think it is from the standpoint of the convergence of a number of factors that are coming together here. So we understand that one of the main deals that's going to be announced has to do with the steel industry. And of course, that's been the subject of quite a lot of international debate. Some would say China is exporting its overcapacity, or that China is the overcapacity capital of the world. And so they found a spot in former Eastern Europe where this is an industry that can very much be revived and brought back to life. So that's clearly one of the stops. I think in the larger context, Mike, really what we're seeing out of China, and especially what's going on globally, is the modern-day equivalent of the Marshall Plan for Europe. It really is from an economic standpoint. China and Mr. Xi are going places where most countries have not gone, and with some pretty solid impact, I might add.
Yeah, well, talk to me about that. How does Serbia fit into the Belt and Road Initiative in a sense?
Well, I think ultimately it will be a market for Chinese products. What we're seeing now in some of the initiatives has to do with manufacturing capability, but I think ultimately they see it as access to additional consumers. And, you know, it's part of this broader program, which now involves 60 nations with the One Belt, One Road initiative, and somewhere in the neighborhood of about $100 billion of investment or investment deals that have been announced.
So he's visiting a steel plant purchased by a Chinese company, and I know you say that this is an avenue for China actually to push this material into a new marketplace. Describe the marketplace right now. What's the relationship between Serbia and China today, and where do you see it moving in the future?
So clearly, there are long-standing ties between the two countries, whether it's because of the former positioning of Serbia in sort of the Eastern European bloc or its reemergence of late. So I think China regards Serbia as a country that will ultimately be on the move and has good growth prospects. At the same time, it's lagging in investment. It's lagging to some degree in innovation. And it certainly needs like-minded countries, such as China, who are willing and unafraid to move in a direction that might be seen as somewhat of a challenge to other industrialized nations. So I think this is going to continue to grow and accelerate on the heels of Mr. Xi's visit.
Well, and let me go there. What about China's footprint in the Balkans and Europe now, and where do you see that moving in the future?
The footprint in the Balkans has to do with also the maritime 21st century Silk Road. So we start to get now into areas that include shipping lanes and other than terrestrial distribution. So the Balkans become a key part for that. We also know the Balkans have been somewhat of a flashpoint lately when we look at the relocation of peoples coming out of Africa, and they have their own political and some would say humanitarian issues to deal with. So I think bringing some economic stability to the region in the form of inward investment, of literally taking the initiative to go to these somewhat challenged places, is going to pay a lot of rewards. You know, countries will remember who was there in their time of need or in their time of opportunity. And, you know, this reflects what I think is a broader characterization of Chinese foreign policy and what I would even call soft power, which is showing itself in economic terms. I've been all around the world, as you have, and we've seen the impact of Chinese investment, whether you go to Africa or Latin America or elsewhere in Southeastern Asia. And unlike other forms of soft power from other countries, which maybe have more to do with information or even ideology, the Chinese are leading with investment. And you'll drive by and the locals will say, that's the Chinese stadium, that's the Chinese dam, that's the Chinese bridge, that's the superhighway the Chinese built. And I think those forms of soft power endure and have a much more lasting effect on relations between the two countries than some that are more based on information.